Welcome to Giant Stories, a podcast inspired by people and brands with meaningful stories to share. I'm John Kiker, your host and president of Medium Giant, a fully integrated creative agency in Dallas, Texas. Today, I am thrilled to welcome a friend and a well-known creative and brand leader around this town, Julia Melle. She's the director of brand and content at Southwest Airlines, where she's leading one of America's most beloved brands through, I would say, quite a transformative chapter in its history, to put it mildly. But Julie's path to Southwest is an exercise in career creative range, shall we say. She spent 9 years at Leo Burnett and LB Works in Chicago, working on campaigns like P&G's Always and Kellogg's Special K, breaking records, or picking up some hardware, a Can Gold Lion and Gold Effie, just to name a few. From there, she served as executive creative director at Publicis and also as creative group head at the Reuters Group, working on great brands like Alfa Romeo, Bridgestone, Dave's Killer Bread, and Nestle Pure Life. How am I doing so far?
You're doing well.
You feeling good about yourself? All right, excellent. That's my point, is to embarrass you a little bit. Now at Southwest, Julie is doing something really rare, using decades of agency side creative firepower to lead a brand from the inside. So from things like launching Shopify, which I want to talk a lot more about, the first of its kind commerce partnership with TikTok to turn content creators into travel agents. Fascinating. Also guiding Southwest through this just minor seismic change, like assigned seating that just launched this year. Julia is proving that an in-house creative can be the most powerful marketing tool that a brand has. A writer by trade and an artist by passion, she brings storytelling instincts that are as sharp as her strategic ones. And she's built a creative team at Southwest that's setting the standard for what in-house brand leadership can look like. Julia, thank you for joining us on this fine Friday morning.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Bright and early. Some people need coffee. We're just going to do a podcast. That's how we're going to wake up today.
That's right. That's a good
awesome.
starter.
I love to start these conversations by asking our guests to sort of give their story. And I kind of give a couple of highlights for you, but your journey has been one that's crossed the country and been to some pretty amazing agencies and done some pretty incredible things. So I'd love for you to share with your guests.
You bet. My story started in Ohio. I'm an Ohio girl, a small town in Southwest Ohio, raised by a mayor. My dad was the mayor of Troy, Ohio, and my mom was a nurse. So I feel lucky to have been raised by some pretty great mentors in my life. And started in an in-house advertising agency in Ohio, a small retail department, where I really, learned the art of copywriting. I was an artist by trade, but I kind of transitioned into copywriting. So I started there, which is great because you get to dabble, wear all kinds of hats, PR, internal comms, advertising. And then from there, I moved to Dallas and started working for Tumberland McLean at the time.
Way back in the day, for those of us who remember.
That's right. That's right.
American Airlines.
In Las Colinas.
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
And so I started in the loyalty department working on American Airlines.
Okay.
Yeah. Writing some of the loyalty newsletters for American. And I remember writing for the very first website. Yeah. Which takes me back.
Yes.
And then from there, so I spent about 3 years there. And somewhere in my career, someone, and I don't know who it was, but whoever you are, thank you, told me to diversify myself as much as possible. And I started to think about it and I said, okay.
Sage advice.
Yes, sage advice. At that point, you can be truly valuable to your clients and offer a well-rounded perspective. So I thought, okay. I from there went to a division of Ogilvy in Minneapolis and worked on some more. I launched Starwood Preferred Guest.
Okay.
So a little bit more loyalty. And then moved to Chicago and started with a boutique division of Leo Burnett focusing on tech startups.
Okay.
So that was interesting during the tech boom. And then from there, moved on to LB Works, another boutique division of Leo Burnett focused on passion brands.
Okay.
And it was there. It was led by Jeff Jones and Stefan Poster.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeff has gone on to lead an amazing career, Target and H&R Block most recently. And Stefan, notorious for Altoids, Curiously Strong. So anyway, we built this, or they built, I should say, this boutique division focused on all these passion brands. But what it was is a unique business model where all disciplines were sitting together. So we were able to solve problems quickly. We were nimble, really focused, again, with a focus on passion brands. And what happened is our winning percentage in terms of new business was far greater than Burnett proper at the time. So they were like, hey, guys, you've had your fun. Let's fold you into the mothership.
Lift and shift. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So then I was in the mothership and
Okay.
worked on some amazing brands such as Special K and always, with P&G, and got some amazing learning experience on building brands, not just domestically, but globally. So I did that for many years. And then, my husband found a job back here in Dallas. So we ended up moving back to Dallas. Then I commuted to Chicago for 2.5 years, every single week.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
You earn exec plat and it's cool for a while. And then you're like, wow, spending more time on a plane. So then at that point, I transitioned to Publicis, which is, owns Leo Burnett. So that was an easy transition, and ended up working my way up in that office to be executive creative director there. And then went to the Richards Group after that, and built a large group within the Richards Group, working on a lot of Charles Schwab and Flowers Foods business. So a lot of CPG as well. And then started to kind of really think what I wanted to do in my career. The Richards Group was going through some transition itself at the time.
Indeed.
And so I stayed there about a year after some of that turmoil, and then started interviewing around the country, thinking, what do I really want to do? And that was an exciting time in my career, just talking to a lot of different people. And that's when I first started to consider going in-house. And then the position at Southwest popped up. And so it was a bit serendipitous, and just was lucky enough to
talk about a
jump on
passion
that.
brand.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's, to me, if I was going to go in-house, I wanted to work for a brand that was beloved, and that it would be an honor to take care of, and that I believed in, but also one that I felt like I could, make a difference. And at the time, Southwest had known for its swagger and strong personality and amazing work over the years, had kind of lost its way. It had become a more rational voice, and that was during the pandemic, and that was at a time where a lot of new flyers were coming into the brand, and the entire category was shifting in terms of behavior.
Right.
And so everybody was playing it a little bit safe, and which may be fine for some brands, but for a brand that's known for its personality, they had sort of lost their way. And so people coming into the brand that were new didn't really get to know the Southwest, that, a legacy of freedom and swagger. So I felt like I could bring that integrated experience, that diversified experience, in and help that personality come back a bit.
So talk about that, because the legacy of Herb Kelleher obviously looms large over that organization and has permeated that culture forever. And so how do you hold on to those things, like that sense of independence, a little bit of sense of maverick, a little bit of smart ass, a little bit of take what they do seriously, don't take themselves too seriously, into the modern day where it's so competitive? And to your point, you have a lot of different players in the space now, and the whole nature of air travel has changed. And obviously the company made a massive decision last year to move into assigned seating. So how do you not lose that spirit that's always made Southwest unique and endearing, whether it's internally from a cultural perspective? For everybody who's worked there, they'll tell you that culture is like nowhere else that they've ever been, but also to make sure that it cascades out to the people who have been Southwest loyalists for decades upon decades, and not lose that sense.
Yeah, well, that's a huge question.
Yeah.
It's, and I would have to say it's a bit art and science.
Yeah.
I think that when you walk in our building, there's a giant picture of Herb, and you learn the culture, and it's an important part. It's an honor for me to take care of it every single day and make sure that we don't lose it, and everybody feels that.
Right.
And so I think that when it's
a responsibility, right?
It is a responsibility. It is. And when you're building a brand, as you're building the brand architecture. It's science that goes into it. It's not just frivolous art and we'll make people smile. You have to build that architecture that ensures that you do have brand consistency as you cascade it out. So, our tone of voice, our positioning, has been relatively the same over the years. We stood for this democracy of flight, making it affordable for many. And bringing that joy. There's always been the undercurrent of people that make Southwest different. Friendly.
Humanity has always been front and center.
That's right. Friendly, fun, easy. And those are core tenets of who we are and who we will always be. So it's making sure that those core tenets and that personality and that tone are built into that brand architecture,
Right.
even if the positioning ever so slightly changes, to make sure that you still feel true and authentic to your customers. I think, like I said, the category has shifted a bit, and travel behavior has changed. And so we've had to really consider that and
Right.
listen to what our customers want. The open seating has been a big part of who we are. I think there sometimes as a brand, you think that a policy or an RTB makes your brand, but it's got to be more than that
Sure.
because those things change over time.
Well, it's the why behind the RTB, right? What's the motivation driving whatever policy or ritual that any brand wants to deliver to their customers, right?
That's right. And our purpose is to connect people to what's important in their lives.
Right.
And we do that, with fun, easy, friendly, reliable service and award-winning service, quite honestly. So those are the core tenets, and that they forever will be. And what I've been using this analogy a lot right now because a lot of people are saying, who is Southwest, and are you the same as everyone else? And I always say, well, just because there's 2 red apples on the table doesn't mean they taste the same. Our people and our hospitality and that award-winning service will and forever always be our differentiator. So, now as things change and policies change, and we must also change to be competitive and to be able to offer our customers more of what they're wanting these days.
Right.
There are a lot of flyers who, as an example, want assigned seating because it brings more control to their life. It allows families to sit together. And so that's something that we wanted to be able to offer our prospects and grow our audience and cast the net wider and pull people into this amazing brand and let them experience this award-winning customer service. So we've had to shift to be competitive. We are growing. We're trying to listen to what our customers want, offering more destinations, and the assigned seating then allows us to offer more fare products. We now have extra legroom seating, and that was fun. So my team got to design those seats.
That's fun.
So when you are in charge of the brand, you
get to design
it's everything.
a seat.
It's cabin design, our new revamped cabins.
Yep.
We did all of it. So picking the carpet, designing the seats, the new little embroidered hearts on the back of the headrest, picking the fabrics, all of it. It's been the bulkhead, all of it. It's been a lot of fun. But making sure that we are bringing that elevated experience to the customer and what they want, more choice when they travel with us, and as we continue to grow, but never losing sight of who we are.
So it's funny. I remember seeing the first commercial probably last fall when you guys had announced assigned seating. And I think this was kind of like when there was mayhem in a mall and mayhem and anybody had heard about it, and just like it was all. So I thought that was a really fun nod to like, this is the Southwest spirit. Like, again, it's a big deal that we're doing this, but like, again, we don't take ourselves extremely seriously. So this is a fun way to talk about something that we know that you guys knew was going to be a seismic change, but how do you sort of embrace that big, the gravity that it's gonna have with some people? That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a big discussion point. How do we announce what is essentially the most boring news ever? Because it's a category norm.
But it's so disruptive to who your brand is, historically. So I just thought that was a really fun way to think about how you communicate that.
Yeah, I think we decided, okay, humor and a sense of humility is really the only way to go with it. So exaggerating, exactly. We exaggerated the point. Yeah. And then at the end, which is my favorite little moment, and he's like, where you have this humble little moment with the 2 guys at the bar, which harkens back to Herb and our cocktail napkin, and where our whole, everything was born on the cocktail napkin. So where they're like, isn't somebody else already doing this, or hasn't someone already else thought of this? And the other guy's like, and then it's a hard cut out, which adds to the humor of it. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun to come up with that. And then at the time we had the sister spot to it, which is we call Boarding Royale, which is the Hunger Games-esque spot that we came up with. And that was never intended to be a Super Bowl commercial. It was just meant to be the sister spot to Are You Sitting Down? And we thought, wow, this would be a great Super Bowl commercial. And also we thought it would be great to launch it at the time, the Super Bowl being right around when we were changing over to assigned seating. So we thought, okay, perfect time to sort of close that chapter and start chapter 2.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I love that. So you come into Southwest working with some great brands and understanding, how to communicate what's most meaningful about these brands from a storytelling perspective. But I want to go back to what you'd said about the start of your career working a lot on the loyalty side. What did you carry over from that into bigger brand work that you eventually got into? Because it's usually, that you don't see people move sort of from that sort of a niche style of the business into broader brand stuff.
That's a great question, and no one's ever asked me that before. I appreciate that. I think when you work in loyalty marketing, it's all about building those highly valuable, meaningful conversations with your customers and getting to know them on a more intimate level and what matters to them, and all the different tiers within loyalty.
Right.
Which, there's a lot of, different rewards at different levels. They're at a different part of their journey with your brand. So you have to learn how to vary the conversation and develop how to, build those meaningful conversations with different variances of your target audience.
Right.
So, you're doing a lot at the time, getting into a lot of variable data to build those meaningful conversations. And so I think that was a great learning ground for me coming into even just mainstream, where you're building much broader target audiences. You still have to do that versioning to make sure you're hitting them with the RTBs that matter to them.
Right.
To build those meaningful conversations and knowing where your customers are in their journey with you, is important. So I'm probably a rare creative in where I do believe in the data, informing what your customers want and what's important to them so that you can cater those conversations.
Probably helps you understand, I think a lot of creatives who have spent most of their careers specifically on brands view insights in a very different way. It's more, obviously the point of an insight is to spark a creative solution that's going to, solve the problem in a unique way that's going to connect. But I would think getting that far into the data on the loyalty side, really helps you understand insights from a more dispassionately quantitative perspective to understand how you get to something, right?
Right, it does. And as much as I love quantitative data, and because it doesn't lie,
Right.
you can't hide from it. I do love qual.
Mm-hmm.
I love ethnographies. I love really getting in with the customer and asking questions and listening loudly to what they're saying. Because sometimes I think you can find hidden nuggets of truth in those conversations.
But I think the quantitative oftentimes reveals opportunities to your point, to dive into the qual. Like, okay,
Yep.
why are the numbers the way they are? Like, let's understand what's going on in the nuances, and that's where those conversations can sort of unearth something that kind of gives you that aha.
That's right. I think one thing that's been humbling for me in my career is it's never as intuitive as you may think it is. You think you can rely on gut instinct, and a lot of time you can, and your perspective and your experience, but the data does reveal the truth, and it does sort of teach you that while intuition is important and gut is important, you got to listen to what your customers are telling you. Yeah.
So I think this is just my perspective, but I'm sure you can relate. So across our careers, I think the biggest change in our business, obviously, it's not just the channels through which we communicate, it's the proliferation of content that's out there that we have to be able to produce. I mean, you used to be able to think, let's take Southwest, like, okay, really solid billboard campaign, pretty simple print stuff, meaningful TV, radio on occasion, and off you go, right? And so now you guys have to think, take assigned seating as the recent example. How do you guys think through content creation and curation and proliferation, knowing that there's so many places that you have to be now beyond the screen, whether it's digital, whether it's social, whether it's all these channels? Like, how do you guys view storytelling in a way now that has to serve so many channels and so many different audiences?
Yeah, I think it was very different, where everything sort of had to match.
Yeah.
And I think now it's important that there's just a universal strategy that carries everything, that permeates throughout all your work.
Right.
So that's the constant, but really understanding the media is the message. So understanding all of your channels and how you have to diversify your strategy so that it feels organic to those channels.
Right.
So I think we like to think about it as a universal strategy, but make sure that we're organic to the channels that we reach our customers in, so it feels authentic to that.
So how do you think about content creation in terms of like how much you have to create now versus 10 years ago, or heck, even 5 years ago, in terms of like the volume of production and all the places that you have to be? Obviously, AI plays into it to some degree, but how are you guys thinking about that?
Well, back to building those meaningful conversations
Right.
to the different customer segments and wherever they happen to be in their journey with us. I think, it's thinking about how to scale the message faster.
Right.
So we're obviously starting to lean into that and explore, use technology to our advantage there. But we're growing and learning and meeting new partners that can help us do that on a daily basis. But I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. No, it just, you talk to some brands who are working with the Adobes of the world or whomever to understand, like, okay, how can I create one thing and then produce 30 different versions of it at the snap of a finger with, whether it's changing the color of a car or whatever it might be to match a particular person's interest and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, we work closely with Adobe.
Okay.
And, what we're really taking a hard look at now is our AEM. And, you're only as good as the health of your assets, really, when it starts to scale.
Yeah.
So really taking a look there. I remember, I think it was maybe my first week in, and I noticed we put an ad out there promoting a particular destination. And I think it was us, American and United, all had the same image the same day in the content. And I was like, okay, guys, we got to take a look at our assets. And
where are we pulling this from?
Exactly. Right. And I think a big, we have a lot of assets across our organization, and, we have our comms department that does some great storytelling and is sitting on some amazing assets, and then our department brand and innovation team and all over. So it's really aggregating all of that and, coming up with a tagging system and figuring out where your gaps are. And we're really taking a hard look at all of that right now as we begin to scale to make sure that the health of our data and our assets is there in a good place. So we're looking at all that, right now, actually, as we speak, and to make sure that we can scale faster.
That's the amount, I think, of between the data and the assets. And again, like, how do you tag it? How do you deploy it? How do you manage it? How do you the governance that you have to have in place is pretty insane. I would imagine. So talk about storytelling. Has it evolved really?
Well, I think that with all the different channels and the ways to tell stories, you have to think about all the different, storytelling lengths.
Yeah.
Just to, you have long format, short format, a lot of 6s now.
Yeah.
That you're creating. And you like to think about it. So there's story within a story within your channel, but it's the story that you're creating as a brand holistically across all of your media channels too. So I'd like to think about it both ways.
But fundamentally, has a story really changed? Like, there's a hook, there's a climax, there's a payoff, right?
That's right. I mean, yeah, even you analyze all the Super Bowl work,
right?
And there's always, a protagonist, and there's a theme. And you look in a lot of, it's over the years, it's a lot of the same storytelling basics and fundamentals. Like you said, you got your protagonist, you got your theme,
right? You
got your arc, your climax, and then you land the plane, so to speak. So
yeah, I think sometimes people get lost in maybe the perception that whether it's technology or celebrity can sort of be the story into themselves. And it's like, no, they're actually helping to fill a narrative that should already sort of fit what that brand is. And so, like, obviously for Southwest, the narrative is democratized travel. We connect you to your point, to the people and places that they care about. Talk about some of your other experience on other great brands that had really meaningful stories to share.
Let's see here. I'm trying to think of some of I've been lucky to work on a lot of different brands with some great storytelling. I think, if I go back to my P&G days and think about that target audience for Always, I fell in love with that target, and it wasn't exactly me. You learn that there's a lot of women out in the world we learned through the data that predominantly that target audience were women that were trying to make a difference in the world. A lot of customer service positions, community service.
Right.
And just embracing their female. And so there was some great storytelling there, and just that has led to some great work on that brand. We started with Have a Happy Period, and some of the greatest storytelling started. We realized through our PR team that there were little girls in Africa who didn't have proper protection, and nor did their schools have bathrooms. And we realized what was happening is they were dropping out of school because they had to miss school during their cycle. And therefore, it was changing the trajectory of their society because all these girls were dropping out of school. And so we realized that, and we felt like, okay, that's our story to tell the world, that this is happening.
Right.
And we knew that women are like, it takes a village to raise a child. So we offered a discount on our product when you bought it that would go toward funding building bathrooms in these schools. And we did it. And it changed the society. So we were really proud of that. So that's where I love it in our industry, where storytelling can make a difference. I look back and there's a lot of amazing, Super Bowl commercials. And I did an Alfa Romeo Super Bowl commercial telling the story of that car. And that was a lot of fun. But I do love it when it can make a difference in people's lives. And that was a great opportunity. I think for Special K, it's about, women that are on this journey to a healthier you. The story and how our product plays a role in their lives.
Right.
And again, it's like we realized a lot of women wanted some chocolate at 9:00 at night. So we came out with a product that sufficed them in that moment, and telling that story. And so, and then all their health stories, and allowing them to connect with one another, and building that bridge there to facilitate conversation between women. And
whenever I go talk to college students about, who are advertising majors, and, after I try and, scare them a little bit and make sure that they're really in on this thing, I think there's a lot of questions like, well, why would I want to get into this business now? What is it about advertising and story? The examples that you're giving is that you actually can make a difference, and that there are things that you can do on behalf of brands that serve a commercial purpose. Because that's what brands are paying you to do, but also have the opportunity to make substantive change. And whether it's on a very micro scale or a macro scale, I think this is a generation coming out of college that does want to make a difference, that have seen, the perhaps some of the positives and some of the missteps that us Gen Xers have gone through. So I think it's important that we impart upon them, that not only do you have the opportunity to make a difference, but the tools that you have now to do it with, and the channels that you work and where you can show up are so different than they were when we were coming out.
That's right. And I think that's what's so great about working on Southwest is here you're sitting on a category and for a brand that believes in connecting you to people and places that matter most.
Right.
So, and all the opportunities that opens by inspiring travel.
Right.
And so that's a wonderful thing to believe in every day when you get up in the morning, is that you're building these bridges to, broader connections to the world.
Yeah. And
so that's a lot of fun, and it's easy to get people rallied around that.
Yeah.
At work.
How do you guys think about from a creative perspective? Because AI has a million different places and uses, but how are you guys thinking about AI from a creative perspective?
Well, I think from a creative perspective, because it kind of depends who you talk to, and I think we're thinking about it in a couple different ways. I think one, as a tool of inspiration. I think you can plug in your hypothesis or some copy and have it feedback some different ideas that may inspire your concept. And so as a tool of inspiration, but also as a tool of efficiency. How can it help us, like I said before, scale at the pace we need to scale? We learn about subject lines quickly in our emails, what works, what doesn't work. AI helps us there.
Yeah.
So it can be a basic utility, and then just a big, broader utility to, as we build this scalable platform. So
good. So talk about storytelling and where it's headed. You talk about the different formats, and how are you guys at Southwest thinking about, where the brand goes from a storytelling perspective moving forward? Like, how, where else do you start to show up maybe that you haven't in the past?
Well, I think that, as our product evolves, I go back to my Apple analogy that I said before. I think that for us, there's nostalgia. Like, we are going back to the root of our brand and not losing sight of that, which are our people. And all the way that they take care of our customers. And the stories that come out of all those experiences just write themselves.
Yeah.
What we do and what we're committed to is embracing those stories and embracing our people and empowering them to take care of our customers and that hospitality that we believe differentiates us. And then those stories just write themselves. There was just a story this week about this little boy, William, and he is an aviation lover and
likes to see the cockpit on the plane.
He does. Yeah. And Bob, our CEO, heard about it, and so flew them into headquarters and let him, experience the simulator. And
very cool.
So telling William's story as a 5-year-old and his love for flying and being a part of that story, I think it's the role our brand plays in the story too that is important. Not just putting our logo everywhere, but playing a true role and facilitating, connecting people to what matters most. So there, there's new stories every day that come out. Our people returning items, driving people to where they need to go. Something happens. It's just the stories are incredible.
Well, and that's the stuff that endures, right? I mean, that's to your point. That's always. You talk about nostalgia, which actually is kind of a trend unto itself. If I see another 80s themed show or anything like that, I'm gonna kind of lose my mind. But
well, you know why that's happening. It's so interesting that even younger generations now, they are embracing it, and you get into the psychoanalysis of it because it brings a sense of solidarity to them and control and calm.
Dad,
and
you
it's
heard
so
of
interesting.
Depeche Mode? Yes.
Yes.
You may have dressed up like the lead singer once or twice, maybe back in the day. There is no photo evidence to document that, though. So my kids will never.
Lucky
find
for
it.
you, I know. Lucky for us, social media didn't exist.
Oh my Lord, on so many levels. Yes, it's a very good thing. But anyway, no, Julie, this has been an awesome conversation. I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's so much fun.
All right, thank you. Giant Stories is a production of Medium Giant and our parent company, the Dallas News Corporation. Interested in learning more about how your brand's story can be better told and sold? Visit mediumgiant.co or send an email to hello@mediumgiant.co.